Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into my podcast. Let me welcome my guest today, Steve Edgar. I invited Steve because he is having so many different roles, right? Like he's leadership consultant, he's trying to really promote well-being, what I really stand for, and he's general manager doing a lot of different charitative events and supporting a lot of different causes. And does a lot of work in community, and also your results are exceptional. I was going through a few different results that what you achieve with club, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. So I would love to welcome you to my podcast and give you a little bit of time and space to tell us something more about you.
Well,
Hi.
thank you, Alex. I really appreciate the intro. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation coming up. So yeah, it's been an interesting little journey for the last couple of years at least. I think the big issue was COVID, and I viewed that as a very much a control alt delete for a lot of reasons. And as a leader of the club here, and I guess even being a father of two kids in our family, we just as a leader, people look to you, go, "What do we do now?" So that was really a
Yeah.
massive situation, everybody, and
Yeah.
a lot of horrific images around the world, and there's so many crazy laws put on us, and we just got thrown into a massive sense of disarray, I suppose. So it was, yeah, really
Yes.
interesting time.
Especially in hospitality industry. I think, guys, you had the probably most difficult time during COVID. So I definitely would love to touch on that because that probably led you to, a few changes in your life as well. And
Yeah.
and how do you approach your leadership and people in your work? So definitely probably something I will definitely would love to know, like what was before, like what is your background and how you kind of ended up now here focusing on well-being. So if you can, yeah, tell us more about that.
Yeah, sure. It's a good question, which does lead into where we went. It was so our club's situated right on the southern end of the Gold Coast on the Queensland New South Wales border. So literally, the border runs down the middle of our town. So it was we had a situation where there was a premier in one state versus a premier in another state, and we are stuck
Yeah.
in the middle, and we are very much collateral damage, and it had a lot of issues for us in that situation. It was quite surreal to start with. It was, with the Prime Minister of Australia closing the country down basically, and then it was like, what do we do now? And what happens? Everyone comes to you and go, what do we do now? And I had 82 staff at that stage, and I had to stand in front of them and all and tell them they didn't have a job. And it was quite heartbreaking for me. I think that alone itself was really important to remember for me and focus on for a second. The pain in a lot of those guys' faces. We had, I guess, about 20 of those 80. So a lot of them were from not from Australia. So they're outside the social security system, which is important. It was before JobKeeper came in. It took a couple of weeks to come in, JobKeeper.
Yeah.
So it really was extremely frightening for these guys. And, a lot of them are younger. So I sort of had this sort of almost father-like
Mhm.
feeling about almost a maternal instinct or paternal instinct. And, and some of the guys were crying and they're going, what do we do now? And for the first time in my life, I hated it. I said, I don't know. And, it was really quite scary. So it sort of rolled on from there. And it was, so that was really about the people. And as we know, there was a lot of lockdowns, a lot of crazy rules and laws. And we just sort of tried to be innovative and think about. We really wanted to focus on people rather than profits. Was really worrying how we're going to get forward with continue. No one knew, so it was just so we
Yeah.
developed the plan really quickly. I was lucky enough. One of my directors is a quite a high profile businessman, and it was he just said, look, let's not panic to start with. Let's find out about this Zoom stuff. No one knew much about Zoom back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
And our normal board meetings, we'd meet every month. So we said, let's meet every 2 weeks. He wanted me to gather information and disseminate to the board, and for us to operate in 2 week blocks. So it was
Yeah.
that really was good. A really simple strategy allowed me to calm down a little bit rather than get too emotional. And he
Yeah.
said, and I remember really clearly, he said to me, "But most of all, I want you to look after our people, Steve." And that was really, it sort of really resonated with me that was the case. And what that meant was, and I asked him what that meant, because we're dealing with the club's money. It's not it's not a private business. And so it's members' funds. And he said, look, if someone's in trouble and financial help, I want you to be able to loan them some money. So when we pay our suppliers back, I want you to be able to keep some aside to be able to do some emergency loans for people if they're in trouble. So it
That's
was
all.
it gave me a lot of freedom to be able to do that. And that sort of set us on a journey of exactly that, looking after our people first before profits. And that was the start of that.
Yeah, that means it sounds like I'm sure you're an amazing leader, but this kind of crisis when you realize you need to react and respond very fast the way you don't want because you don't want to let people go with basically, one day notice or a few minutes notice.
Yeah.
So it was probably very hard, but what personally changed for you, like from perspective of leadership or approach to people and business itself?
Yeah.
And how did you feel about that?
Yeah, look, it was we were sailing along quite nicely beforehand. We did have a big issue a couple of years beforehand with the Commonwealth Games. Had an event right beside us with the beach volleyball, which was awesome, but it nearly drove us broke. So we got through that okay. It was pretty scary times, but we're traveling really well, and we're promoting ourselves well. The club was full. We're very busy all the time. We're making some good money. Then this came along. So it gave us a chance to reset, and it was really, as I said before, it allowed me to reset myself too. So it's a Control-Alt-Delete. It's a good way to describe it and go, right, well, let's just stop and think and reprogram ourselves. So we were shut down for, I don't remember now, but it was a couple of months, like 10 weeks or something like that. And look, and I decided to come down to work here every day and sit in the middle of an empty club with my desk and look out over the ocean. You've been here; it's a pretty awesome place.
Amazing place, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just really immersed myself in the club and what we needed to do, and it was like I wanted to reset that. So through the next part was we only had about $400,000 in the bank as far as the business was concerned, and I knew we needed to reset and stop doing business that way. We wanted to reinvent ourselves some way, so we ended up spending about $200,000 on inside the club, just doing some minor renovations and new uniforms and things like that. So that sort of stuff. So it was really well backed up by a board of directors. But personally speaking, open up, close down, lockdowns, mandates with masks, how many people per area, and
Changing rules all the time, yeah.
Yeah, so it was really taxing. And all the while, as a human being, I'm a father of two kids who were going to school back then. They were struggling. My daughter was going through grade 12 then. She's worrying about not having a formal. So there's a lot of pressure on internally, and but one thing for sure, it allowed us to gain a really good sense of connection, which I think is super important. But it's open up, close down, and it was really hard to be able to handle that, and it took a toll on me personally. So I ended up in that period with the border closures here at Coolangatta. I got involved with the media. I ended up on the Today Show, talking about how hard it was for Coolangatta businesses to survive, and really it was a bit like we were collateral damage for the rest of the state. So the media got hold of it and really went to town on it. It was a really good story for those guys dealing with the personal pain that people were feeling versus keeping people safe with COVID. So I was quite instrumental in that. So the media sort of loved it. So they got hold of it. Then it ended up with the state government at the time pumping $14 million into the Coolangatta region, which was quite unbelievable.
Right.
And so I was sort of like that was quite it was quite exciting but scary at the same time. So without even thinking, I was sort of becoming a bit of a leader in Coolangatta, I suppose. But it was personally, it took a toll with me, and I wrote a post on LinkedIn about pandemic fatigue. It was just,
I was going to ask about that.
it just wore me down, and it was open up, close, and open up, close down. And normally I like to be able to be the person to go, what do we do now? I remember one day it was like I got asked that and I couldn't answer it. I actually broke down and started crying, and I'd admitted to myself basically at that stage that I was struggling with my mental health and I needed some help. So I went and saw my GP and I got some a mental health care plan and got some counselling, which was pretty amazing. I ended up doing about 10 sessions, but it made me much more personal to focus on personal feelings on myself and also my team. that was the big change inside me. It wasn't just focusing on profits, and how do we do this and get better.
Yeah.
It was about that. So that put me on that journey. So as we opened back up and got back into it, it was the big test was we rolled on a bit. We opened up in about middle of January, I think, of 2021, where they removed all of the sanctions, and it really was like an onslaught. It was the doors opened, and the borders were open, and everyone just went a bit crazy. And but we'd lost a lot of staff, and so through the vax mandates, we'd lost 9 key staff, and there was an accommodation crisis on the Gold Coast, which is still there today. And so we didn't have many skilled staff to be able. All of the international backpackers were all gone home and that sort of stuff. So it caused a huge issue. So we were very short staffed, and I was sort of rubbing my hands together going, here we go, we can fill up our bank accounts quite quickly here. And about the 3rd day in, I sensed some sense of despair amongst our team, and I made a decision on the spot that really was in practice people before profit. Was we closed our front doors for at least an hour at lunch and an hour at dinner to allow our team to catch a breath. And it wasn't like 2 out and 2 in type of thing. It was just we just closed the doors and it didn't let anyone else in, so there was no new customers. So that allowed my team to go, well, this guy and this business does care about us. And it was, and that really started my whole journey with how I wanted to start to I think was based on my own mental health issues, and a really high degree of empathy sort of brought to the surface. So I wanted to look after our team. So
Yeah. And first of all, thank you for sharing. I know that's very personal, and I believe from experiences like that, especially someone, with your results and with your success, sharing these kind of things. And sometimes people told me, I remember when I was talking to someone, and that was my colleague, and I was saying, look, I was so down with my business that I actually find myself crying on the floor, and thinking, okay, I need to give up on this. And he was like, oh, you can't share that, because there will be a lot of male, audience. And I remember when I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to share it. So I'm not going to tell people that I was crying, because I was really crying. And it's funny how normal it is. And how not normal it was before. 5 years ago, it was not normal to share that, we can have the weak moments, and we are human beings, and there is only, a level that we can handle, and we need to take a breath. And we need to actually pause. And in today's society, I'm sure you see it, it's so fast, and it's almost like after pandemic. I don't know if you noticed, but even after pandemic, because of that, when you open the doors, everyone craziness, like everybody comes, everybody wants to be out. And I feel it's the same in business. Everybody wants to do everything much faster. Everybody wants to kind of catch up on those 2-3 years of lockdown, and everyone became so fast and so busy. And I feel that's another there was pandemic fatigue, but I feel there's another coming, from actually post-pandemic, like what people do now. It's craziness as well. And I remember how not normal was that sharing that thoughts and emotions and how we really feel, and actually say and admit, what, I just can't handle right now. And I need help. And I love that you're sharing that from your perspective, because a lot of people still need help. A lot of people still didn't deal with pandemic fatigue, or what you call it, pandemic fatigue, but all the mental health pressure or mental health issues. And it doesn't mean that we are not okay. It means that we just really need a little bit of help. We just need a breather, and it's nothing wrong with that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And there was the moment, I love what you said, that you innovated and you closed for 1 hour, after lunch and dinner. And I think that's so important when you realize how that hard work, that, tiredness and not having enough staff and the busyness and just all the pressure that was on everyone last 2 years. So now people are still probably not okay, but they need to fast track working hard. And you notice that, and I think that's because of your issue, that you actually notice that now, that people actually need a breather. I think that's amazing. I love that.
It was very much so that I feel that it's still today. It was I had a management session with I'm in a management group yesterday. We spoke about that, and one of the younger managers, he's got his own business. He's got 10 staff, and he goes, "Oh, I couldn't possibly tell them that I'm struggling." And I said, if you show them some vulnerability to your team, I said, you will grow in their eyes at least 10 times. And they will go, well, now you're a human being, you're not a machine. And they'll feel there's some sort of sense of connection with because everybody feels it. It's not,
Yeah.
just because you've got a title or at the top of the tree, it doesn't mean you're not human, because everybody is.
Yeah, and I don't like when people put themselves on the pedestal of superhuman, because we are all the same in a sense, we are all the same. We have all feelings, same emotions, same thoughts,
Yeah.
and we are up and down. It's the major thing is how we manage that, and you manage that very well because you've noticed that something is not okay.
Mm.
So I think that management is missing when someone thinks that is superior or is easy, or sorry, is a machine, basically. It's a
Yeah.
robot.
Yeah.
So that's already saying that he or she doesn't know how to manage
Mm.
himself or herself. So that's pretty dangerous, I guess.
Oh, very dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. So from perspective of your project, so about fast forward now, you deal with your situation, you are better. I believe you feel better because you look better. You are full of energy, and yeah, you sharing this pretty much publicly, what is really great to see, that you actually kind of find yourself on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you see leadership now, or how do you see it is moving forward? Because I know you are involved in a lot of different causes, and you're trying to help people. So,
Mm.
so what changed afterwards? Like when you solve everything now, everything is I can see everything is basically running as a machine because you have amazing results. I saw some of your improvements and staff. I think you increased staff by 30% and profits by 60 or 70%. Like it's crazy numbers. So what do you do differently? What did you learn, and how that looks like maybe in daily practice?
Yeah, excellent. It's look, I going back to then, it was like when I went to counselling, it was I didn't know it at the time, but I was in a very bad way. I'd sort of let myself get quite worked up and burnt out, or really was burnt out. And if you think about that quite deeply, it does mean you're devoid of energy, and you sort of feel a bit of despair and stuff. So I was working at a feverish pace with the through the Essentially Coolie campaign with the Coolangatta borders, and I was, as I said, quite high profile back then. And sort of when that finished, and the media stopped calling, and that cause was sort of finishing on its way, I felt this really sense of emptiness. And I thought, and I was seeing my counsellor at the time, and I said to her, I feel like I'm a media tart. And she goes, no, you just love to help people, but there's nothing in front of you that you can see on a regular basis. Because I just done also through their with a couple of friends of mine, did a large walk for mental health awareness, and we raised about $40,000 for some charity. Same thing, I was the spokesperson for that. So same thing at the end of that, I felt down. So I went and decided that part of my well-being is to help people on a regular basis. So every month now I volunteer at Orange Sky Laundry. So we do laundry and offer showers for the homeless, and we co-provide with Roses on the Street, where they provide a meal. So it's I'll go down there just with a Orange Sky t-shirt on, and like I'm not any title. I just go down there and just the vibe of the place with the other workers and volunteers, and it just makes you feel amazing. And like I've remembered plenty of times where I've sort of got in the car and had a rough day at work, and might have had a fight with the missus. I go out down there, and straight away I just feel
Yeah.
my emotional cup's filled up beautifully. So so look, I feel like that's part of getting to the point, is understanding what makes me tick, because I'm such a crucial part of this of my family, what my role in there is as a father and a husband, and trying to be human. Like, we work really hard on having
Yeah.
open communication at home with their family, and at work, same thing. It's just like I need to know what makes me tick first of all. So that oxygen mask theory, and so if I can get that sort of right, I'm on a good plane with fairly well set with values-based leadership, lead with some empathy, and then I can understand what makes my team tick. So it's really hard, because I'm getting to the back end of like what I'm employing 20, 21, 22-year-old kids, and I've got to understand what makes them think, because it's completely regardless what I think, because they just want to think how they think. So if I want to get the most out of those guys, I've got to sort of understand what they're
Yeah.
expecting. So that's interesting in itself. But yeah, so we've set up some stuff there where, just understanding what a typical 21-year-old
Yeah.
employee in my workplace looks like. And, I think 15 years ago, I'd expect them to be completely engaged and, write their name in blood on the wall for Cooley Surf Club. But it's now I really understand that, they're probably going to university,
Yeah.
they have a social life, they, they've probably, got exams they go through.
Mm.
I come to work for 20 hours here, so having them through the front door, and sometimes I just want to come and just get over the line. Where it's my job to go, right, while you're here, I want you're going to feel safe. This place will be devoid of any bullying, harassment. There's no yelling. It's a safe and secure workplace for you. We work
Yeah.
really hard on. We've set up a wellness committee. We offer counselling for all of our staff and any of their immediate family, which is starting to grow in popularity. So the role of the wellness committee is to keep their eyes and ears open for their colleagues and see if they're not travelling well. And just offer an ear, or maybe it's just let's go for a walk on the beach, and they're allowed to do that. So that's really important, and I really enjoy seeing that grow. We've gone and put. I think we've had about 25 of our staff go through mental health first aid training. So still a journey at the beginning at the moment, and I'm not sure where it's going to end up. But every day I learn more and more about that, and it's exciting for me to do that.
Yeah. And I will ask you, what actually makes you tick then?
What makes me tick? Well, I like to help people. I like to spend time with my family and my friends. I love to know that I make a difference, both socially with my friends. As far as charity, I want to do some meaningful work. I try to address my balance of my health and fitness, my spirituality, and my business needs. And I love to be able to help people. So that's where I'm sort of heading. I'm setting up when I finish my management career inside a club, which I'm hoping is 5 or 6 years' time. But I'll be looking to set up consultancy business where I can help people in this space where they can feel safe to be able to talk about themselves and show some vulnerability, learn how to mentor people, learn how to I think it's important to how to engage people, like just trying to put yourself in their position to go, how is this 21-year-old kid feeling? Don't just sit there going, well, I'm 55 and you should be feeling this way, because that's quite wrong. So
I love that. And I love that there are a few things that you mentioned. And I love that you basically try to set up realistic expectations from 21 years when they are starting their career or they're going to uni. And I think that's amazing that you notice how actually we need to manage this different way, because actually they have different life ahead. They have, different thinking about the job, the current job. And what we need to understand how to accommodate the highest performance from them in this situation or in the set. Because it's very visible how we're changing, right? Like after pandemic, also with your experience, experiences are changing us a lot. And there's another step when you mention, like this happened and I had to seek help, but now I'm okay. I can see that's my purpose. So you realize that actually contribution and growth, it's basically they're our soul needs, right? Like they're our human core needs that we have. We all of them have, but they kind of came to us or come to us in different stages or different levels or through different experiences. And I love that now your journey is kind of transitioning into that fulfillment and purpose. And it's beautiful how you manage kind of smoothly when you think about it, right? Like it was great experience, low down, and now I'm up. I know what to do with this and how I can help others. So amazing, and congratulations, because a lot of people really struggle to find that, purpose or what will make them fulfilled. So
I feel like I think that's really big, is a sense of purpose. I also feel like really, and I wouldn't have thought this way pre-pandemic. I think it's certainly a case of I think most people feel they need to feel that they wanted, needed, and a sense of belonging, and that does transfer to the workplace too. Like you just sort of see kids coming in and like, how do we, old school, how do we induct them? Got to teach them how to do this, and how you wear your uniform. But it's really, how are they going to connect with the people?
How they feel, absolutely,
And like that's scary for anybody coming to a new workplace. I don't care who you are, and you're going to walk in. You're going to, first thing you're going to do is you want to fit into that workplace. If you don't fit in, which is sometimes the case, well, we really try to lead with some care and empathy, but sometimes it's just the wrong fit. So what we do need to do is be quite honest about that. And, I certainly say to my line managers, I want to be able to go to bed at night with a clear conscience. So it's, we want to give every chance for success, but sometimes it's not going to work out. Well, we need to be quite honest and forthright about that too. So, because, if you can have someone like a square block in a round hole, I suppose is what I like to put it, but it doesn't mean that it's not that the person isn't important, but we've got to look after the greater team culture.
But I think that's the approach that you have, leading with empathy and trying to help people to feel they belong, and they don't need to try to fit in. They can be actually themselves, but you can still accept them for who they are. And I think that's the big shift in culture in general. But if I can, speak from my perspective, when I came to Australia, we all actually all immigrants that I met, everybody tried to fit in because we want to be accepted, right?
Yes.
But what happened after a few years, a lot of people just losing themselves. They totally lost the identity or the power and strength they had. So it feels like it's an amazing place to work, what you're creating, because you are kind of helping people to stay empowered, stay who they are, and just express themselves. Of course, you want to express through performance or through helping other people to feel they belong. So I think that culture is so important, really, really important. And I love what you do there, because that's so, especially for young people. If they can experience that work environment, it's like, wow, actually people value us here. We are actually normal human beings, and nobody's saying we are just entitled pricks. Because I'm sorry for expression, but everywhere I go, that was the first thing. It's like, I don't know what to do with these young people. They just so entitled. I said, no, they're not entitled. They just ask what they want.
Yeah, look, that's really interesting. I had only last week, it's probably my right-hand girl. She said the same thing about one of our 21-year-olds. She goes, "Oh, they're so entitled." And I said, "No, they're not entitled at all. They want what they want." And and it was literally and I said, there's what we do now is important, and how we're going to react to that. It was the person just stood up for themselves and said, they're a casual employee, and technically, it's a casual engagement. She wanted to get a night off. We do our rosters 2 weeks in advance, and she wanted the night off. She gave 3 days notice. And look, that's culturally not probably what we want to see, but technically, legally, she's allowed to do so. So she came back after a string of text messages and said, "Well, I'm a casual employee. I don't need to accept your shifts." And me 5 years ago would have gone, "Yes, correct, but I'm not obligated to give you any shifts either." But I didn't say that. But my friend said, "Oh, she's entitled." And I said, "No, she's not." We'll have a conversation and go, "You're right, but I'd rather you come to me and go, I really, really, really need to have this night off because it's important to me, and I don't need to know the exact reasons." But then we understand there's a bit of feeling behind it, and it's not just a flip of a shift. So, that was important.
And it is that's actually important, exactly what you say, how you respond, right? How you respond, how you react to what is happening. Because it's easy to say people are entitled, but I think I love that what young generation does. They ask what they want, they share what they want, they ask you. And I think that's communication, right? When we think about that as open communication, raise the feedback, concerns, and tell us what you want. So we can actually converse. So honestly, it's interesting how big difference is in probably generational, I guess, leadership or how we lead the companies. So I'm really, really excited to see that you're getting into understanding in what young people do and want.
And funnily enough, it's because what we've created for this Generation Z, I call them, they call themselves Generation Z. It's it also transfers to the baby boomers and my generation, Generation X or Y or whatever it is. It's because it's based on care and empathy. It's the same thing. It's not, you just segregate it to a different generation. It's and importantly, this isn't anything new. It's every single generation. My grandfather would look down at me going, "Oh, these young kids today," and these young kids that'll be a grandfather one day or grandmother one day, and they'll look on their kids and go, "Oh, you kids today." It just keeps going. So you've got to get in for the ride, or you'll get pushed out the back door real quick. So
and absolutely. And I think we also used to do that. We complain rather about others and how others should change behaviors instead of actually change our approach and behaviors. So I think that's another great skill to have.
And on that one too, is like just circling back a little bit. It was like one of the big changes for me was understanding what, like I said, what makes me tick. Like I sort of know what, like I look at the I like to call it the mood meter, the mental health continuum, and up and down you go. Like, red's, probably need some medical help or some, doctors.
Yeah.
Green, you're on fire and you're bulletproof, this sort of thing. But we all slide up and down from green to amber and so forth. But I know what makes me tick, to what makes me go up there. I know what I need to. And today, like one of the good things out of COVID is, we allow people to, I can pick up my laptop and I'm having a bad day and I don't want to be around people. I've got a bit of a hot temper, so I'll know that I don't want to go, letting that explode. I'll get my laptop and go home and take a breather and, take the dog
Nice.
for a walk and sit down and just relax and don't respond really quickly. But, I've got to watch my alcohol intake because I know if I drink too much, I then don't operate really, really well in the green space. So yeah, it's just I find that's quite important to be able to know that's what makes me tick, and I want to operate in a healthy, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit type of place. Yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that you mentioned actually the alcohol intake, for example, because a lot of people, like I'm noticing that always with clients, they come and I said, "What is your worst habit?" And it's coming back to fatigue, burnout, stress, tiredness, and it's almost 99% people tells me, "Oh, after work, the first thing I'm just going to have beer, and that's my relaxation." So what happened in society, I think, because of that pressure and stress, people actually just drinking because of his habit. It's habitual stress release.
Yeah.
So helping people to understand there is another way to release the stress. And I know it's hard because it became habit, right? And they don't need to be alcoholics, but it's just the habits that we deal with, a release, that tiny moment of, it feels good, work is done, and I have the glass of champagne or beer.
Yeah.
And it became real actually problem. And I see that people are very aware of that slowly, what is really good. And I love that they say that, like actually it's not okay to have beer after work every day. So
correct. Yeah. Well, that's another generational thing as well. But through COVID, everyone's locked down. So yeah, retail alcohol places were still open. So alcohol sales and the consumption at home went up 45%. 45%. Very Aussie thing to do. Let's go and have a beer and forget about it. But look, and my friend does
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy. So my friend works on every week on the phones at Lifeline. So I asked him about how that looked through COVID in regard to the calls. He said remarkably not much, because he attributes it to the fact we were locked down, so we were forced to have social connection with our family and our friends. And remember, we were going checking in on people where we were really more personal. But it was literally 2.5 years later where it took that long for the alcohol being 45% up to start dipping back down to some regular levels. Now, what that was always going to mean was going to be higher alcohol intake was going to mean there's more domestic violence, there's more self-harm.
Anxieties, depression.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing, like you said before, there's an instant little sugar hit from having a drink, but it's that second and third drink. You've got the same thing out of going to the gym or going for a walk, hopping in the ocean, having a swim, take your dog for a walk, go outside and close your eyes and smell the breeze and listen to the wind in the trees. It's just that's the difference we get to these days, I think.
And I think, and I love that we can, first of all, is have a choice. We can make decision, but the first probably beforehand, we need to be aware of that. So if you actually really check in, I think, like, okay, what did I do this week and last week and week before? Actually, I had beer every day, or I had something every day, some alcohol. And yeah, when we started bring awareness to that, and say just one day, one thing, one beer after work, I will exchange with, just going to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And I realized, because a lot of my clients says, when I'm going to the fridge, and I actually remind myself to breathe, and I ask myself, do I actually want it, or is just habit? They always say that the answer is always, it's just habit. I don't want it actually. So we actually realized we are doing something we don't want anyway. So that's it's a lot of things. I think a lot of issues arise after COVID, of course. Like there was so many different ththings, but I don't want to keep you too long. So I will ask you probably, what's next for you? What are your next plans? Because I know you have a lot probably in that space.
Yeah, look, I'm really enjoying the work I'm doing on the side with my own business, getting ready for a long time down the track when I sort of semi-retire and move into a different space, it's like I'm fortunate enough to be able to put that into practice in my workplace every day. So I'm working out how to be a better leader and a better manager, and just things like just finding out how I can really simplify my work structure, which I've done.
Nice.
What makes my people tick, and how that really works in a caring and empathetic way. But team engagement, what does that mean? What does it look like every day? You can go and give someone a job description, and I feel that everybody needs a management supervisor. Otherwise, they'd be considered home drinking coffee. But it's everyone needs to be managed and encouraged and motivated, and sometimes performance managed, and that means also praising when they do great stuff, which is really, as we're into that space as well with some peer-to-peer recognition. But I'm really enjoying that because I sort of want to be able to use my experience through, the management leadership I was able to experience through COVID was something I could almost write a book about. I think it was.
Are you sure? Probably.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah. But I want to be able to share that with young people, and finding a way to be able to do that in a non-intrusive way. And unfortunately, at the moment, people are really reluctant to ask for help, or they don't want to look like they're weak by going, oh, excuse me, Steve, can you come and help me with how to deal with the board of directors? Like I'm having a hard time here being able to communicate up with them, and I could really help a lot of people in that space. But so I'm finding out how to articulate that. I've got a lot of stuff floating around in my head up here, but getting it down onto into a structured plan is maybe I need someone like you to help me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That I love how your brain is going. I can almost see it. It's just never stops.
You don't want to see it.
So I'm trying to catch. It's like, no, it's great. Like I think the great plans. Look, I think you have definitely so much experience, to share your experience through the book and helping others to run their businesses or boards and really start to learn how to communicate on different levels, how to be more empathetic. And I think you have so much experience, so that will be absolutely amazing and needed in world. So I'll be happy definitely to get to maybe introductions or anything that will come to my way. So when people want to reach out to you and start conversation, maybe they already need some help, and I'm sure you inspired a few amazing people out there with your story. So where people can find you, how they can contact you?
Yeah, well, I'm on LinkedIn, just Steve Edgar, ACCM, so that stands for Active Certified Club Manager. I left school in grade 10, so I don't have a university degree. I've just started up a website which is really in its initial stages, so it's not very well developed at the moment. But there's a few interviews on there which are very interesting. It's a in-depth interview with my whole life story, I guess, in 40 minutes. I've done a little ebook in there, so that's steve-edgar.com. So
awesome. Yeah. Great. I will share that definitely in description. So guys, if you want to connect with Steve, there will be the links will be in description of this podcast.
Yeah.
And probably before I will let you go, because I always have like one question at least at the end. So when you think about all leaders, and I know we are out of pandemic, but there are amazing learnings, and I know you pick up a lot of stuff that you changed in your leadership. So if you can maybe share something with other leaders and say, hey guys, don't forget this because this is so important, what it would be.
Yeah, I think it's certainly having a really good look at yourself and what impact you're making in all parts of your life. I really subscribe to that theory about looking after yourself, and then having an open mind, open heart to be able to open ears and eyes to be able to see what's going on around you. And if you can do that, and if you want to be really honest with yourself, we talk a lot about accountability and responsibility, and that's really in its rawest form. You will be able to show some vulnerability and show some perceived weakness, and that shows you're a human. People are going to embrace that so much, and on all levels of experience. So it's that's really the way to do that, and it's a constant learning all the time. It's one of my mentors said to me once. He had a couple of good sayings. He said there's only two states to be in. Be like a plant. You're either growing or you're dying. There's no middle ground. I like that. But so it's always a constant, and I think that is about if you understand that, it means you're going to continue to. You never get there. It's always a journey, and you go right. Well, even like a set retirement date, like it's not a thing for me to go, wow, it's that's the end of the line. It's just a continuation for me to be able to move into even more passionate fields that I can really enjoy getting into
Yeah.
it. And it will be linked to how much passion I have to continue in my current role. If that ever started to wane, I wouldn't be doing my people a good service by staying. I'm going to hand the baton over to somebody else, which is another part of my role at the moment. But generally speaking, I think it's understand yourself, leading with care and empathy, and show some vulnerability, and you'll be a wonderful leader.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Steve. Really appreciate it. I hope I will see you soon, and I will see beautiful Coolangatta soon as well. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Alex. Appreciate it.